Starting from the very bottom, guys. You remember this story. I'm obviously very late to talking about this. Um, we're clearly on the yeah. There's a horrendous amount of stuff going on. This is, as I was saying, the intense. This is the second mask that was intensely taken off. Like this, the rhetoric really changed. At least, uh, you'll find out. Okay. Some right-wing media figures and influencers have doubled down on the use of inflammatory rhetoric against the LGBT community in the wake of Saturday night's shooting at the Colorado gay club that killed 5. The rhetoric mirrors what LGBTQ advocates have warned about for months, most notably false claims that children are being sexualized or, quote, groomed by LGBTQ people and events. The Colorado shooter's motive is unknown, but the primary suspect, Anderson Lee Aldrich, is facing 5 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of bias-motivated crime causing bodily injury, more commonly known as a hate crime. Jeez, what a mouthful for that. Aldrich's first court appearance is scheduled for Wednesday. On Monday evening, Fox News host Tucker Carlson condemned the shooting, focusing on the suspect's reported history of making a bomb threat in 2021. 3 minutes into his nearly 15-minute monologue, however, Carlson's show displayed a graphic reading, quote, "Stop sexualizing kids." On Tuesday evening, Carlson hosted a guest who said shootings would continue to happen, quote, "until we end this evil agenda that is attacking children." Alejandro Calabaro, a clinical instructor at Harvard Law School's Cyber Law Clinic, said that the repetitive messaging from Carlson and others have opened the door for violence against LGBTQ people. Quote, "The way they soften up the support for this kind of violence is essentially by making it seem more justified in the minds of people who believe this," end quote. Calabaro said, quote, "The way they do this is by constantly painting LGBT people as pedophiles and groomers, and so people feel morally justified in caring about this violence," end quote. Some well-followed accounts on social media that have routinely and misleadingly associated LGBTQ people with sexualizing children continue to do so in recent days. Tim Pool, a conservative internet personality with 1.4 million followers on Twitter, targeted the venue, Club Q, where the shooting happened. Quote, "We shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids," Pool tweeted, and goes on to say, "Club Q had a groomer event. How do prevent the violence and stop the grooming?" Pool appeared to be referring to all ages drag Sunday brunches and were being hosted at the venue. Ari Drennan, the LGBTQ program director at Media Matters, the progressive watchdog organization, called Pool's tweet a false and, quote, "insanely dangerous and irresponsible thing to say." Drennan, who tracks media narratives around the LGBTQ people, said that in her said not in even in her, quote, "worst nightmare scenario," end quote, did she predict the responses at the Colorado mass shooting. Quote, "So many of these people seem to have crossed over to territory where they're very comfortable advocating for people to take matters into their own hands," Drennan said. Oh, damn. Okay. Libs of TikTok, a prominent conservative social media brand created by Shia Rashik, sorry, flubbing that name as if it matters, dead name her, that has 1.5 million followers on Twitter and focuses on the LGBT community, proceeding with its usual practices on the platform Sunday and Monday, publishing videos and posts from LGBTQ creators with smaller followings and opening them up to harassment and criticism. In one post Sunday, the account focused on Colorado specifically, highlighting a nonprofit that hosts events for kids interested in drag. Yo, fashion is odd. That's all the drag situation is. Just weird fashion. Ugh. Um okay. Matt Walsh, a prominent conservative YouTuber who I will go into very late in the coming articles, um, known for his criticisms of LGBTQ people, published a video on Tuesday titled, quote, Why the Left is So Desperate to Expose Children to Drag Queens, end quote. Walsh, who has 1.9 million YouTubers subscribers, called the shooting tragic, but doubled down on the attacks on drag queens. Quote, is it that hard to not cross dress in front of kids? Is the compulsion that overwhelming? End quote. He asked in a video. And quote, if it's causing this much chaos and violence, why do you insist on continuing to do it? Carlson, Rashik, Walsh, and Poole did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of the LGBTQ advocacy GLAD, said that the ongoing demonization of LGBTQ people by conservative media figures has taken its toll. Quote, no one is holding them accountable for all of the main misinformation they're spreading, but then we need to prove we're not what they say we are, Ellis said. Damn, I don't know if you need to get defensive like that. That doesn't really help. Anyways, that's true though. How are you supposed to prove that, I guess? But that's besides the point. Anyways, at least one Republican politician also targeted LGBTQ people on social media in the wake of the shooting. On Monday, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, RGA. Oh, sorry, I'm terrible at abbreviations. Published a video on her recently reinstated personal Twitter account criticizing trans people. Quote, the left wants you to believe you can make your gender whatever you want, she said. Quote, also quoting, they want kids in schools to learn that they can change their gender to do whatever they want. Okay, end quote. A representative for Green responded to a request for comment from NBC News by asking, quote, are you suggesting that chromosomes can be changed? No one says that. The LGBT community has faced a wave of threats and violence. I would click that, but there's just so much to cover. I'm sorry, guys, if you're even still watching. Okay, in recently published research from the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino, researchers found that reports of hate crimes against LGBTQ people in major cities increased by 51% in 2021. Ellis said leaders in the LGBT community have, quote, seen a drastic uptick in anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. She said over 344 anti-LGBTQ bills have been proposed that this legislative season, quote, to solve the problem that never existed. Wow, I actually have a coworker who said this, that they're just pretending that they don't exist. So, basically advocating for genocide. Alright, quote, they use all this language, grooming, pedophiles, it's mostly around kids and children, Ellis said. Meanwhile, so many in our community are parents and have kids and are trying to protect our kids. Broader anti-LGBTQ sentiment has been growing on social media, according to researchers. Jeremy Blackburn, an assistant professor of computer science at Birmingham University in New York, who studied online extremism, found that the use of the term groomer on social media increased by 100% beginning in March compared to the start of 2022. On Twitter, the use of anti-gay slur, yeah, you know that one, had a notable increase in the past 7 days, according to data reviewed by the team of researchers at the Center for Strategic Communication at Montclair State University, which studies and monitors social media. Use of the word groomer on Twitter saw even greater growth, with data uh, showing almost many mentions of the word in the past 2 days as in the past 2 weeks combined, the researchers found. Um, Caraballo noted that rising anti LGBT speech on social media has been met with the rollback of suspension on Twitter, where she said major anti LGBT accounts that were suspended in the past 5 years have been reinstated and, quote, let off the leash. And, quote, this is an emergency break glass moment for social media, Caraballo said. Quote, this is priming some very violent people to do shocking acts of violence. And this is all being pushed on social media and on Fox News, on Tucker Carlson. All right. And in my opinion, the Q shooting could end up like oh, sorry. This. The Club Q shooting could literally end up like this. When the Pulse shooting happened, and their funding was taken away. This is more assuming and guessing just based on how history's been happening. Yes, this article is old, but this is just a historical tie-in, I guess. You know, behaviors and yada yada. Okay. LGBT advocates in Florida are calling Governor Ron DeSantis heartless in the wake of funding cuts that say strip mental health resources for survivors of the Pulse nightclub massacre and other support systems for the community. DeSantis, in signing the state budget Wednesday, took money away from the Orlando LGBT Community Center and an organization that houses homeless LGBTQ youth, according to the list of budget views he vetoed. Equality Florida, a civil rights organization focused on the LGBT community, said the cuts represented the entirety of funding for LGBTQ programs in the state budget. Quote, let's be clear about this. Governor DeSantis has declared war on Florida's LGBTQ community, end quote. Brandon Wolf, media relations manager for Equity Florida and a survivor of the Pulse massacre, said in a statement. Quote, before the 2019 Remembrance ceremony, Governor DeSantis stood on the hallowed ground steps from where I escaped the building in 2016 and promised me he would always support those of us impacted by the Pulse nightclub shooting. Today, almost 2 years later to date, he vetoed mental health services for us. I will never forget. Yes. And you see Brandon Wolf saying this here. If I wasn't paying attention and just like going on autopilot, I probably would have just read this again. Okay. DeSantis funding vetoes came just 10 days before the 5th anniversary of the June 12, 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting, in which 49 people were killed and dozens more were injured. DeSantis' office did not respond to requests for comment from NBC News on Friday. However, his spokesman defended the governor in an email to the Washington Post. Quote, Governor DeSantis has been a champion on mental health since day one, and he absolutely supports each and every Floridian who has experienced such horrific trauma, which has lifelong impact on survivors, Christina Pushaw told the newspaper. DeSantis' office called claims that his veto would hurt Pulse survivors, quote, patently false. Quote, No Floridian in need should go without mental health care, and of course that includes survivors of horrific traumas like the Pulse Club, Pushaw added. The fact that Governor DeSantis vetoed funds earmarked for a specific organization doesn't negate his administration's historic investments in mental health for all Floridians, including LGBT communities. Okay, sure. So, I care, but I'm gonna strip you, but I still care about you like I care about everybody else. That's basically what they're saying. Like, don't mind if I strip your rights, but I still care about you as a Floridian, as a concept. Yeah, that's stupid. It's basically like being colorblind, but a different type of blind, you know. You're saying you don't see gay or whatever. Not to sound cringe, okay. Um, okay. In the wake of the Pulse shooting, which devastated Florida's LGBTQ and Latinx communities, then President Obama called Orlando's LGBT Community Center, quote, ground zero for community healing. Hold on, coffee sip. All right. George A. Wallace, the center's executive director, said 2020's veto of 45,000 for mental health counseling at the center was expected, but this year's 150,000 cut, quote, stings in light of the report from Equality Florida that the state has a record budget surplus of 6.6 billion this year due to the American Rescue Plan. Quote, yesterday marked the first day of Pride Month, and Governor DeSantis has once again proved that he is one of the most homophobic and transphobic governors in the United States, he said. Oh, end quote. Zebra Coalition, which provides services to LGBTQ youth 13 to 24, also lost funding. Quote, this money would have helped LGBTQ plus youth facing homelessness, bullying, isolation from their families, physical and sexual abuse, and drug abuse, end quote. Executive Director Heather Wilkie said. Democratic State Representative Carlos Smith, the state's first openly gay Latino legislator, shared his dismay on Twitter. Quote, vetoing funds from LGBTQ youth is indefensible, he wrote, and goes on to say, vetoing funding for Pulse Orlando survivors days before the 5-year remembrance is heartless. Smith also criticized the governor for signing a bill on June 1st that bars transgender girls and women from playing on sports teams in public schools. Yeah, okay. Alright, back to this. Alright, so the Colorado shooting suspect apparently has a record of just being a criminal, but because America is just full of mentally ill, deranged people and violent crazies, the the hate crimes are pretty much filtered through the mentally ill America, and so we're just have deranged shit like this happening, I guess, where bomb threat people can just be loose and then commit another crime. Alright, the man suspected of opening fire at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado's second largest city over the weekend was previously arrested in an alleged bomb threat incident last year, ABC News has learned. But authorities said it's unclear whether the state's red flag law could have prevented the mass shooting. According to press release posted online last year by El Paso County Sheriff's Office, deputies responded to a report of a bomb threat on Rubicon Drive in the Larson Ranch neighborhood of Colorado Springs, just south of the city's airport, on the afternoon of June 18, 2021. A woman had called saying, quote, her son was threatening to cause harm to her with a homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and ammunitions, the sheriff's office said. She was not at home at the time and was not sure where her son was. Deputies were deployed to the woman's home and realized that the suspect, identified as then 21-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich, was actually at another residence on Pilgrimage Road. about a mile away. They contacted Eldridge by telephone, and he, quote, refused to comply with orders to surrender. The sheriff's office said a tactical support unit was called in, and approximately 10 homes in the immediate surrounding area were evacuated, while an emergency notification was sent to cell phones of residents within a quarter-mile radius, according to the sheriff's office. A crisis negotiations until ultimately was able to get Eldridge to comply with others. He walked out of the front door of the home and was taken into custody that evening, officials said. The regional explosives until then cleared both residents and did not find any explosive devices, the sheriff's office said. Aldrich was booked into the El Paso County Jail on 2 counts of felony menacing and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping. What? Oh, okay. According to the sheriff's office, Colorado Springs ABC affiliate KRDO reported on the incident at the time. Alright. Aldrich, now 22, alleged began shooting a long gun as soon as he entered the Club Q in Colorado Springs late Saturday night. At least 5 people were killed and 17 others were wounded by the gunshots, according to the Colorado Springs Police Department. Police said 2 heroes confronted Aldrich and fought him, stopping him from shooting more people. Officers responded to the scene and detained Aldrich just after midnight, less than 6 minutes after the first 911 call came in, according to police. Aldrich was injured in the alleged incident and remains hospitalized. As of Monday, he was being held without bond on 10 arrests only. Bond on 10 arrest only charges, 5 counts of first-degree murder, and 5 counts of committing a bias-motivated crime causing bodily injury, according to online court records for Colorado's El Paso County. Colorado's 4th Judicial District Attorney Michael Allen, who serves El Paso and Teller counties, told reporters Monday that these charges, quote, are only preliminary and subject to change once formal charges are filed. Oh, damn. The court has sealed the arrest warrant and supporting documentation connecting with Eldridge's latest arrest. According to the motion by prosecutors, if the records were, quote, released, it could jeopardize the ongoing case investigation. Law enforcement officers briefed on the investigation confirmed to ABC News that Aldrich was previously arrested in an alleged bomb threat incident in June 2021 after the El Paso County Sheriff's Office was alerted that he was in possession of a homemade bomb. Officials briefed on the investigation told that ABC News that the gun Aldrich allegedly used in Saturday's shooting was a legally purchased assault-style rifle, and that his 2021 arrest may not have appeared on background checks because the case did not appear to have been adjudicated. Homeowner from 2021 bomb threat incident speaks out. Okay. Colorado Springs resident Leslie Bowman told ABC News that she was renting a home to Aldrich's mother, Laura Voapal, at the time of the bomb threat incident in June 2021. Bowman's home on Pilgrimage Road was where the police standoff with Aldrich and his ultimate arrest took place, she said. Authorities initially went to Voapal's mother's house on Rubicon Drive before responding to Bowman's residence on Pilgrimage Road, according to Bowman. Quote, Aldrich apparently had an altercation with his grandparents and threatened them with a weapon, Bowman said ABC News, told ABC News via telephone on Sunday. Quote, he left their house, which was less than 5 minutes from my house, and came over to my house, and Laura let him in, and I know that he brought in a gun. Oh, damn. Bowman said Aldrich live streamed a, quote, shocking video via the mother's Facebook account from inside Bowman's home while authorities were outside, showing himself with a gun as well as a helmet and vest that resembled body armor. Security cameras at Bowman's home also captured Aldrich entering the residence that day and surrender to authorities hours later. ABC News has obtained the since deleted Facebook Live video as well as the aforementioned footage from Bowman's Ring doorbell camera. Oh, I think I remember this. This was really disturbing, obviously. I was kind of surprised. Okay. Quote, I was told at the time that there were explosives involved, but I've also been told that maybe there wasn't, she told ABC News. Quote, I didn't get any follow-up from the police or the DA or anyone about the case after the incident to testify or anything else. I just didn't get any follow-ups, and so I had very little information on what they did actually find. Viopel lived there for a total of roughly 15 months and moved out 2 days after the incident, according to Bowman. Last month, on October 18th, deputies from the El Paso County Sheriff showed up at Bowman's home seeking to conduct a wellness check on Viopel, according to Bowman, who said she hasn't heard from Viopel or Aldrich since the alleged bomb threat incident last year. After reading a local newspaper, Bowman said she learned that the case against Aldrich was dropped in the court at some previous date, and the records were sealed. Alright, so we literally just got some, like, bomb threat psychopath just running around at this time anyways. Alright. Yeah, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about in the context of then and this timeline. Obviously, I should hope you know I'm talking about the context of now in this timeline, not... Anyways, sorry, rambling. Quote, I just thought it was really strange, she told ABC News. Quote, but again, I was like, well, I haven't heard from these people in over a year. Nobody was hurt, and I'm just going to move on with my life. On Sunday morning, when Aldrich was identified as the suspect in the nightclub shooting, Bowman said she was shocked and horrified. Quote, it made me very upset and angry that this person who did what he did last year, obviously had violent intentions, was let go, and now 5 people are dead, end quote, she told ABC News. Quote, I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Yeah, stochastic terror being allowed to happen for disgusting population control, or just stochastic terror without that rhetoric involved. Okay. Bowman said that the only other incident involving Aldrich became aggressive towards her happening at her home one night when she returned from the long road trip and Viopel complained to her about a problem with the bathroom. Quote, I was like, well, you know it's late. I'm exhausted. I'll have to deal with this tomorrow. And she and I kind of got into it a little bit, end quote. Bowman recalled, and goes on to say, Andy got in my face, and because I was standing at her bathroom door, he told me to get out and slam the door in my face. Oof. Quote, I just kind of chalked it up to, teenage guy, trying to be aggressive and protect his mom kind of thing, she added. I just let it go, and there wasn't really any problem with him after that. Just that one kind of display of aggression, and everything else was kind of up until the bomb threat situation. Motive has the trappings of a hate crime, Mayor says. Alright. Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers told ABC News that the suspect, quote, had considerable ammo and, quote, was extremely well armed. end quote. When he allegedly walked into Club Q. While a motive remains under investigation, Sothers said, quote, it has the tipping point. It has the trappings of a hate crime. Sorry, I'm reading terribly today. Okay, quote, but we're going to have to see what the investigation shows in terms of, social media and things like that to make a clear determination exactly what the motive was, the mayor said in an interview on Monday. Club Q co-owner Nick Grzycka told ABC News that Aldrich was a stranger to their long-established views. Quote, he's never spent money on a credit card or ID or even scanned in our business that we know of, Grzycka said in an interview on Sunday. Quote, I think that was the community of target for him. Authorities declined to suspect suspect's criminal history. Alright, although the suspect may not have been known at the LGBT night spot, which had been serving the Colorado Springs community for 2 decades, Aldrich was clearly known to local law enforcement. However, Colorado has very strict privacy laws when it comes to the cases that were dismissed. Once dismissed, cases were sealed and authorities were prohibited from mentioning their existence, which apparently is why officials initially had not been forthcoming about Aldrich's prior arrest. ABC News and other news organizations have petitioned the court in Colorado to reseal the records regarding Aldrich's 2021 arrest. During the press conference on Saturday morning, police declined to say whether Aldrich is the same person arrested in the bomb threat incident. Holy shit. Yeah, they're literally covering this up, which led to the shooting. Jesus Christ. Okay. Colorado state court system announced via Twitter on Sunday that, quote, there are no public records available under the name Anderson Lee Aldrich related to the weekend shooting in Colorado Springs or any other matter in Colorado. A spokesperson for the district attorney office in Colorado Springs has not responded to questions from ABC News, other than referring to the state court system's tweet. When given details of Aldrich's previous arrest, El Paso County Sheriff Bill Elder told ABC News that he did not recall and had no information about the June 2021 incident. I have 900 employees, so 550 sworn deputies. It's the largest county in Colorado, Elder said via telephone on Sunday. I wouldn't have any clue. Okay, then. Elder also told ABC News that he doesn't know whether more enforcement on Colorado's red flags law in El Paso County would have made a difference in the shooting at Club Q. The state's red flag law, which went into effect in 2020, allows relatives, household members, and law enforcement to ask a judge to order the seizure of a gun owner's weapon if the owner is believed to be at risk to themselves or others. Quote, I don't know anything specific about the shooter, so I don't know if it would have mattered or not, Elder said. When asked whether Aldrich should have been allowed to possess weapons following his arrest in 2021, the Colorado Springs mayor told ABC News that the state law prevents law enforcement at this point in time from commenting on any prior criminal activity. But I think the district attorney will go to court today and will be able to comment on any prior interaction with the policy fairly quickly. Hopefully in the next couple of days, Sothers said in Monday's interview. Well, that was a lot more disturbing than I thought. Alright. Moving on, obviously. Alright. So, this shouldn't be surprising to anyone because there's just ties there's just white supremacy ties to the GOP, so it only makes sense that this Colorado shooter is the son or related to the GOP lawmaker. Um, yeah, okay. I actually had a list of people connected to the Capitol riot, but I'm sidetracked by the LGBTQ arc at the moment. Alright. The 22-year-old man accused of murdering 5 and wounding dozens more in the mass shooting in a Colorado gay nightclub is the grandson of a GOP lawmaker who celebrated the January 6th attack on U.S. Capitol. Suspected gunman Anderson Lee Aldrich, 22, allegedly opened fire inside Club Q in Colorado Springs just before midnight on Saturday night. Bartender Daniel Aston and Derek Rump, as well as patron Kelly Loving, were among the 5 victims killed in the attack. Another 25 people were injured, including 19 who suffered gunshot wounds. The mass shooting came to an end thanks to the bravery of at least one club-goer who tackled the gunman to the ground and detained him until law enforcement arrived on the scene. Investigators named the suspect as Mr. Aldrich, a man who previously fell on police radar last year after allegedly making a bomb threat. The 22-year-old suspect is also the grandson of Republican California State Assembly member Randy Voepel, 72. Sources close to Mr. Voepel confirmed the connection to California broadcaster KCRA3. However, they said that he had not had any relationship with Mr. Aldrich for nearly 10 years, and that he had not tried to interfere with the previous law enforcement investigation into the alleged bomb threats by the young man. Mr. Voepel, a Donald Trump supporter whose social media page showed him sporting a MAGA hat, previously courted controversy with his response to the Capitol riot. 3 days after the insurrection that left 5 people dead and dozens of police officers injured, the GOP lawmaker likened the rioters to American revolutionaries. Quote, "This is Lexington and Concord. First shots first against tyranny." Oh. End quote. He said in an interview with the San Diego Union Tribune. Quote, "Tyranny will follow in the aftermath of the Biden swear-in on January 20th. Okay. His comments promoted calls for him to be expelled from the assembly. Mr. Voepel later walked back his comments, saying that he, quote, "condemned violence and lawlessness," reported the Tribune. Mr. Voepel, who serves as the vice chair of the Military and Veterans Affairs, Aging and Long-Term Care, the Public Employment and Retirement Committee, ran for re-election this year, but lost out in the Republican primary. Prior to becoming an assembly member, Mr. Voepel was the mayor Santee, California from 2000 to 2016. Notably, Mr. Voepel was in office at the time of the Santa High School shooting, which left 2 victims dead and 13 more injured. Public records and social media posts seen by The Independent reveal that Aldrich's mother, Laura Voepel, is the daughter of the state lawmaker. In some social media posts, Miss Voepel refers to Mr. Voepel as Dad and, quote, "my father," and at one point she tells him to keep up the good work. Jeez. Other Facebook posts by Miss Voepel describes her buying a military camouflage suit for her son's 15th birthday, asking for recommendations for a boxing coach, seeking a trauma and PTSD therapist seemingly for her son, and after the 2021 bomb threat incident involving her son, asking if anyone knew a fantastic defense attorney who would help the family out. Okay, sorry. On Mr. Vopel's Twitter page, he mentioned his role as a grandparent. Quote, California's assembly member representing the 71st Assembly District is San Diego and Riverside Counties, husband, grandfather, veteran, it reads. A family member confirmed the Denver Gazette that Mr. Vopel is the grandfather of suspect Mr. Aldridge. Neither Mr. Vopel nor Mr. Vopel have publicly commented on Saturday night's mass shooting, and the outgoing lawmaker's office did not immediately respond to the request for comment from the Independent. The link between the Republican lawmaker and the suspect mass shooter came to light as questions are mounting around how Miss Aldridge managed to get his hands on a firearm. In June 2021, Mr. Aldridge was arrested for allegedly making a bomb threat against his mother. Yeah, we know that. Miss Vopel told police that he had threatened to harm her with a, quote, homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and ammunition. That's a bit overkill. Like, once you blow someone up, do you really need to... Okay, sorry. Not the point. Okay, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office said at the time... Okay. The incident led to mass evacuation of the area for 3 hours. No formal charges were filed, and the case was later sealed. Police confirmed in a press conference on Saturday that the suspect's previous, quote, interactions with law enforcement are part of the investigation into the shooting. The incident raises questions about why Colorado's red flag law didn't stop Miss Aldridge from accessing a gun before Saturday's attack. No motive has been given for the mass shooting, but it comes at a time when the Republican Party has been pushing anti-LGBT sentiment across the country, and as gun violence continues to soar across the country. Okay. And this is more just about somebody related to, why won't this go away? Sorry about that. Alright, conservative royalty. William F. Buckley's great-nephew charged with storming Capitol. So, this is important just for the lore of who William F. Buckley is. So, I'm just gonna read this, but the main point is the next article. Alright. This is actually really disturbing, guys. Hold on, I'm checking the time. Alright. I will be back.